Good morning, Facebook. Welcome Monday morning. Welcome aboard. There's Mr. Rooster. Welcome to our broadcast. This is Keck with Builderall, information products training and support specialist. Hope you're having a great start to the week this Monday. Welcome aboard the live broadcast. Going to take this opportunity just to check on my phone and make sure we're broadcasting. Try one more time here, a little refresh. Yes, checking for sound. Facebook. There I am. Fantastic. All right. Good morning, digital marketing people, BA Nation, information products addicts. Well, that may be a stretch. But anyway, I'm glad you're here with me. Today is Monday, which means it's Motivation Monday. I know. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, well, we are going to give just another minute here, see if anybody wants to hop on before I start. Realize there is about a 40-second delay, so if you do drop something in the comments, I will be checking that, but just know there's a little bit of a delay, and I appreciate you being here. Please help me out in the group. If you see something that doesn't look like it belongs there, a comment perhaps or whatever, flag it for me. And this is a group of people interested in creating and selling information products, group interested in learning how to make some money online. Good morning, Alex. Glad you're with me. All right, well, we are going to go ahead and get started here. Motivation Monday. We are going to talk about a very good book. And I'm going to go ahead and share screen now. To Infinity and Beyond. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about this great book by Cal Newport. Let me see this, called Deep Work. Cal Newport. It's a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Fantastic book. He's got some other books. So Good They Can't Ignore You is another one of his very popular bestsellers. But anyway, Deep Work by Cal Newport. This is our pick for this Monday's Monday Motivation. So let's get right to it. So here's the book. The ability to perform deep to ready? Monday morning. Let's do this. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same time it is becoming increasingly valuable in our economy. As a consequence, the few who cultivate this skill and then make it the core of their working life will thrive. This book has two goals pursued in two parts. The first, tackle in part hypothesis, is true. And second, tackle in part two, is to teach you how to take advantage of this reality by training your brain and transforming your work habits to place deep work at the core of your professional life. Deep work. I'm telling you, if we get this concept in our life. So there's the deep work hypothesis. Little bit of definition of terms here. There's a contrast between deep work and shallow work. Here we'll identify both. Deep work, professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. Deep work is necessary to wring every last drop of value out of your current intellectual capacity. We know from decades of research in both psychology and neuroscience that the state of mental strain that accompanies deep work is also necessary to improve your abilities. Contrast that with shallow work, non-cognitively demanding, logistical style tasks, often performed while distracted. These efforts tend not to create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. This type of work is increasingly replacing deep work with the shallow alternative, constantly sending and receiving email messages like human network routers with frequent breaks for quick hits of distraction. Boy, does that ring true for anybody? Hey, Bridget, good morning. Yes, BA Nation. Okay, so we have this contrast here between deep work and shallow work. So this is all based on science. Okay, so there's some real research on this, and I have to define this term called myelin for us before we go further. Okay, myelin is an insulating layer or sheath that forms around nerves. including those in the brain and spinal cord. It's made up of protein and fatty substances. This myelin sheath allows electrical impulses to transmit quickly and efficiently along the nerve cells. So this science has to do with the cells in our nerves in our brain and how it operates to be more productive. And it has to do with this myelin coating. So keep that in mind. This is one of the ideas, a workout for your neurons, okay? To understand the role of myelin in improvement, keep in mind that skills, may be they intellectual or physical, eventually science of performance argues that you get better at a skill as you develop more myelin around the relevant neurons, allowing the corresponding circuit to fire more effortlessly and effectively. To be great at something is to be well myelinated. I love that. This understanding is important because it provides a neurological foundation for why deliberate practice works. It's like evidence. By focusing intensely on a specific skill, you're forcing the specific relevant circuit to fire again and again in isolation. This is called oligodendrocytes. If you say it faster, it sounds like you know what you're saying. Oligodendrocytes. To begin effectively cementing the skill. The reason, therefore, why it's important to focus intensely on this task at hand while avoiding distraction is because this is the only way to isolate the relevant neural circuit enough to trigger useful myelination. Well, isn't that a mouthful? I feel like I've learned something today. So there's science. There it was. Okay, so moving on, love called attention residue. Attention residue is real. The problem this research identifies with this work strategy is that when you switch from one task to another, say task A to task B, your attention does not immediately follow. A residue of your attention remains stuck thinking about the original task. People experiencing attention residue after switching tasks are likely to demonstrate poor performance on the next task. And the more intense the residue, the worse the performance. The concept of attention residue helps explain why the intensity formula is true and therefore explains high productivity. By working on a single hard task for a long time without switching performance on this one task. To produce at your peak level, you need to work for extended periods with full concentration on a single task, free from distraction. Put another way, the type of work that optimizes performance is deep work. You know, just to reread that last sentence, you need to work for extended periods with full concentration on a single task, free from distraction. That could kind of summarize the whole book, but at the same time, it kind of sounds like a foreign language to many of us because rarely do we have or take the opportunity to do just that. Attention residue. Okay, on to the next big idea. That is, there are 4 rules for deep work. We'll talk about each of them very briefly here. Number 1, deep work is deep work blocks. This is kind of the main idea of the book. Number 2, embrace boredom. 3, quit social media. I have a few amendments for that and caveats. 4, drain the shallows. So let's talk a little bit more about number 1, deep work blocks. So it's not enough to have the intention to work more deeply. We need to systematically install new routines and rituals to create the new habits that will lead to more and more deep work. This is a hallmark of great humans. So the recommendation here for deep work is to install new routines and rituals. We need to install these deep work blocks. If you look at a deep work block, basically what it is you take a block of time and you say, in this block, it is assigned only for this deep work, this distraction-free, totally focused, ultra-productive work. So deep work blocks. Deep work blocks. I want that to get in you because you need to have deep work blocks in your life. It's the big main point. Embrace boredom. This is important too. For some reason these days, the moment we have a lull in our lives, whether that's a few minutes before a friend arrives for lunch or in line at the grocery store or whatever, most of us immediately grab our smartphones and compulsively start checking out whatever we think we need to see right this second. We have about 1/100th of a second of tolerance for boredom, and that's not good. If we want to create the capacity for more deep work, then feeding that beast is not a good idea. Cal, the author of the book, tells us that rather than immediately flail around in the shallow end of the distraction pool. Use those moments to think or breathe deeply. Impulsive attention, paper cutting behaviors. Boy, that's well put. And it is a dangerous behavior. We would do well in many areas of our life, not just work and professional productivity, but all areas of life, if we would take this idea of embracing boredom. And when we have a second, don't just allow it to be filled by just some time to just be there. Okay. Embrace the boredom. Number 3, quit social media. If there's a poster child for shallow living, it's social media. Cal walks us through a logical analysis of the fact that just saying because there's a little benefit to things like social media, e.g., staying connected with old friends and etc., doesn't mean it's actually worth the time we give it. If we really want to live deeply, work and loving, we can do better than fritter away our time on social media. The bold among us shall quit it. Boy, that's a big statement. Cal, the author of this book, he has never even opened a Facebook account or Twitter because he's so devoted to his idea of deep work, and he produces some of the best work around. For us, quitting social media is probably not an option because we work on social media. I'm broadcasting live on Facebook and also to YouTube. So, but this idea of we can do better than fritter away our time on social media, that's something we've got to really think about. And we've got to establish, we're going to get into schedules and stuff in just a second, but we've got to really establish and understand the distraction. Hey, Jose, welcome, buddy. We've got to appreciate the distraction that social media is, even more so that we work in this space. Okay. Stating the obvious there, but I have been called master of the obvious on several occasions. Okay. Shallows is the name of a book written capturing the essence of superficial living, written by a guy in retreat doing deep work. Go figure that. As we automatically drain the shallow from our lives of every day. Do not draw or mindfulness to your day. We want to create big old time blocks. Remember, big old time blocks. Remember the one thing Guy calls this is the number one power tool of time management. Then, of course, be flexible as things evolve during the day, but bring yourself back to your commitment to use your time consciously as you drain the shallow. So this is a great way to drain the shallow. Schedule every minute of every day. And in that schedule, we have to have plenty of big old time blocks. Okay. So just to recap these 4 rules of deep work: work deeply. That's deep work blocks. We've got to create them. Embrace boredom. Quit. Stop right now cultivating in you this idea that you can't just be for a couple minutes without having to grab for your phone and look for some distraction. Okay. Embrace boredom. Cultivate that in your life, and it will produce higher levels of productivity for you. Quit social media. I'm not going to recommend that for us, obviously, but we need to be very mindful of it and let it not distract us, but let us use it as an effective tool. And then we need to drain the shallow. Routines, real quick. We're almost done here. Routines to ritualize deep work. Okay. That brings me to the motivating idea behind the strategies that follow. The key to developing a deep work habit is to move beyond good intentions and add routines and rituals to your working life, designed to minimize the amount of your limited willpower necessary to transition into and maintain a state of unbroken concentration. If you suddenly decide, for example, in the middle of a distracted afternoon spent web browsing, to switch your attention to a cognitively demanding task, you'll draw heavily from your finite willpower to rest your attention. This will therefore frequently fail. On the other hand, if you deployed smart routines and rituals, perhaps set a time and quiet location used for your deep tasks, your deep work blocks each afternoon, you'd require much less willpower to start and keep going. In the long run, you'd therefore succeed with these deep efforts far more. So the idea here is we want to create smart routines and rituals. You want to schedule the time. If you just impromptu think, it's not going to work out. But if you schedule it, make it smart, put yourself in the right environment, in the right place where you have the ability to do your deep work. These are the kind of routines and ritualizations that will help us, or rituals. I may have made up a new word, ritualizations. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, discipline, number one, focus on the wildly important. As the authors of the four disciplines of execution explain, the more you try to do, the less you actually accomplish. They elaborate that execution should be aimed at a small number of wildly important goals. Organization's energy to sufficient intensity to ignite real results. For an individual focused on deep work, the implication is that you should identify a small number of ambitious outcomes to pursue with your deep work hours. So we're trying to identify a small number of ambitious outcomes. That's what we call the number one thing. Okay. The general exhortation is to spend more time working deeply. That doesn't spark a lot of enthusiasm. In a 2004 column titled The Art of Focus, David Brooks endorsed this approach of letting ambitious goals drive focused behavior. Attention, don't try to say no to the trivial distractions you find on the information smorgasbord. Try to say yes to the subject that arouses a terrifying longing and let the terrifying longing crowd out everything else. So the idea here is we have to have this one thing that produces this terrifying longing. That's how you'll know it's the one thing, because it's the one thing that keeps rising up in your attention saying, I've got to get this done. This thing is hanging over me. Okay, so the number one thing you need to pick when you're making your routine, when you're routinizing, is you have to decide what's my one thing. And when you schedule your deep work blocks, that's what your deep work block has to be about. Just that one thing you're focusing on, 100%. So this last concept is about when the workday ends. Down complete. At the end of a workday, shut down your consideration of work issues until the next morning. No after dinner email check, no mental replays of conversations, and no scheming about how you'll handle an upcoming challenge. If you need more time, then extend your workday. But once you shut down, your mind must be left free. Psychology all point toward the conclusion that regularly resting your brain improves the quality of your deep work. When you work hard, go at it. Your average email response time might suffer some, but you'll more than make up for this with the sheer volume by your refreshed ability to dive deeper. So the recommendation here is when you're done with, he makes kind of a ritual out of shutdown complete, where he says, okay, I'm done. He shuts everything down, hits that last power button on his computer. He says, shut down complete. And he actually says it. So that's a mental trigger. Say, okay, now I'm done working. Okay. Now I'm going to go spend some time with my family. Now I'm going to go spend some time with my hobbies or other pursuits. But work is done now. So you've got to be able to turn it off to be able to have the highest level of productivity. The deep life, of course, is not for everybody. It requires hard work and drastic changes to your habits. For many, there's a comfort in the artificial busyness of rapid email messaging and social media posturing, while the deep life demands that you leave much of that behind. There's also an uneasiness that surrounds any effort to produce the best things you're possible of producing, as this forces you to confront the possibility that your best is not yet that good. It's safer to comment on our culture than to step into the Rooseveltian ring and attempt to wrestle it into something better. So there it is, my friends. Monday motivation. That's motivation. I think that's. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I've somehow invented two words today, motivation. But Monday motivation, we're looking at Cal Newport's deep work, the big ideas, Myelin workout. Just remember there's some science behind this. You're actually going to change your brain, which will change your work. Attention residue is real. The idea that multitasking doesn't really exist. It's a myth. Okay. When you multitask, you're just doing several things at low quality because of the fact of this attention residue. You can't jump from this to that without having this still in your consciousness affecting that. Did that make sense? And number 3, routines, time 4. Remember, we want to schedule every minute of our day. We want to schedule deep work blocks, and we want that one big, wildly important thing in that deep work block. And then when we're all done, we want to shut down complete. turn it off, let our brain recharge. And with that, hopefully your brain is charged up for this Monday, charged up for this week. Maybe you can implement some of these strategies to really take your work to the next level. Because, friends, the reason I wanted to bring this little book review to you today, actually, somebody that I've been working with in Builderall, I was telling him about it. He's like, oh, I need that. And we all need this, we being us who work online, because we work right in front of all the shininess in the world, all the notifications, the buzzers, the beeps, everything demanding our attention. And it's kind of a paradox because we're working online. This is how we make money too. So it's even more important for us to really grasp onto these ideas of deep work and implement them in our lives. Okay, friends, that's all I've got for you today. Hope you have an awesome Monday. Let's build it with Builderall. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Y'all have a great day.